There are 9 counts. I'm going to go through the counts that are relevant to your case. The first count is conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, as well as grand theft by deception. That count is punishable to the same extent as the underlying crime on the conspiracy. On the first part of that count, murder in the first degree, it's punishable by death or life imprisonment. If the death penalty is not sought, the court shall impose a life sentence, including mandatory minimum period of incarceration of 10 years.
There's the Doomsday Prophet, Chad Daybell, and those are the potential sentences for his crimes. Remember, Chad Daybell has been implicated and accused in conspiracy and murder charges for his wife, his first wife, Tammy, and the children of his new wife, Lori. 3 people who could not be more innocent. You know, this isn't a case of like sometimes these spousal murders, there's like this back and forth, things are just bad and things go south and maybe there's a moment, there's a crime of passion involved. None of that. Tammy had no idea what was going on in Chad's world, had no idea what was going to happen to her. None of that. She was just living life, raising children, living a life out there in beautiful Idaho. And then you've got these 2 innocent children. My goodness, JJ and Tylee, come on. So these victims are as sympathetic as you could get. A faithful, loving wife and 2 innocent children taken from this earth, okay? When you decide about the death penalty, it's not about, well, maybe he did it, maybe he didn't do it. No, it's like, as a prosecutor, you have to believe that he did it and he's responsible. And where does this lie in that continuum of evil, right? Here's Lindsay Blake, the Fremont County prosecutor, talking about it.
The penalty for the most serious charges range from life in prison without the possibility of parole to the death penalty. We will not be disclosing further information about what penalties we will pursue for these charges. By law, however, we must make a decision and inform the defendants on whether we will pursue the death penalty within 60 days after the defendant's first entry of a plea.
Doing the calculations, I think that puts us at August 8th, which is a Sunday, so I'd expect that decision at least by the Friday before, maybe earlier. So this thing is just around the corner. The deadline is approaching. And from my perspective, you've covered a lot of cases here at Court TV. I see this defendant, Chad Daybell, again, presuming that he's guilty, because you have to presume him guilty to decide what you believe the penalty should be. Obviously, the jury will tell us, so I'm just making the presumptions at this point, putting myself in the shoes of the prosecutor. Worse than Jodi Arias, right? I mean, Jodi Arias, that was a horrific, horrific murder. But worse than Jodi Arias, probably more along the lines of a Scott Peterson. Scott Peterson murdering his innocent wife and the completely innocent unborn son, Connor. Double murder. I would say Chad Daybell, based upon these charges, would be more like a Scott Peterson than a Jodi Arias. Both of them faced potential death penalties. Scott Peterson got it from the jury, then it was taken away by the appellate court. Anyhow, let's bring in our think tank and start talking about this a little bit. Nima Rahmani, I will begin with you. Where do you see the Doomsday Prophet here in that continuum, right? It's like, is he the worst of the worst? Is he the one that should be facing the death penalty if, in fact, these charges are proven?
Chad Daybell is the worst of the worst. There is nothing worse than killing your own child. This is pure evil. I think he's even worse than Scott Peterson. One of these children with special needs, and they've been involved in multiple murders. So if you believe in the death penalty, this is a death penalty case. I don't know what Blake and the Idaho Prosecutor's Office is doing. They've been moving at a snail's pace during this entire investigation. The children disappeared 2 years ago. Their remains were found more than a year ago. I don't know why we're having this conversation now. These are death penalty charges that should have been brought months ago. I don't know what they're waiting on, frankly. There's going to be no more evidence in this case. The bodies were found in Chad's backyard, and then he ran away when they were digging them up. This is a death penalty case, Vinny.
And the way I see it, he was motivated by a couple of things. Money from the insurance, and then the ability to have a new, I don't know if she's younger or whatever, but a new wife, right, with the googly blue eyes, and no kids in the way. Kirk Nurmi, worst of the worst here?
Well, certainly, I think there's a lot of reason to believe that, but I think, Neiman talked about the reason why it's taking so long. But ultimately, prosecutors, this is a really important decision, right? It's going to cost a lot of resources, a lot of money, and it's going to take a lot of time in order to put this man to death. So they're going to be looking at those factors. And I also think this 60-day window, ultimately, even if they're leaning towards that, gives the prosecutors and the defense time to try to work something out. Tell us why we shouldn't choose the death penalty. Tell us why we shouldn't pursue it, and maybe a chance for resolution of the case before we even have a trial. So there's lots of reasons there, but certainly, Vinny, the prosecutors are going to look at this from the aggravating factors. They're going to see that the victims were children, that there were multiple victims, and they're certainly going to have enough to charge. It's just whether or not they feel like that endeavor is worthwhile.
All right, Eklund, before you answer, I just want to give you a little more information. Let's take a listen to Chad Daybell himself.
Hi, Dad.
Hello.
Are you okay?
So they're searching the property.
The house right now?
Yeah. Yeah. Anonymous. So Mark means will be talking to you.
Okay. What, are they in the house?
No, they're out in the property.
Are they seizing stuff again?
They're searching. There's a search warrant, and so we're interested in this with the kids.
Okay.
Yeah, Eklund, I can see why he has so many followers. He has so much charisma. How was anyone following this guy, by the way? All right, so Eklund, where does he fall, right? And here's the thing, the death penalty is the law in Idaho, so they do have it. So what's the point of having a law if we're not going to use it? So is this the appropriate case for it?
I think it's not. I think that you're going to, if you apply the death penalty here for this particular gentleman, you're giving him infamy, and he's ready for that. He's already they're already calling him Doomsday Couple. He already can get a cult following. If you give him that martyr, that stage to die on, and it's the death penalty, be prepared for the most entertaining trial of all trials. Like, there is a reason to not issue the death penalty here, especially when you have a defendant willing to do whatever, who knows how to manipulate the media, who knows how to talk to people. You're going to steer it away from the victims who absolutely need their rest to the sideshow that's going to be this trial. So I think that the prosecution should really think about it, because you're giving him what he wants, which is infamy, and you're going to give him the biggest stage ever if you apply the death penalty in this case. And I believe that that's the truth.
That's an interesting take. I want to listen to a little bit more of Chad Daybell. Here he is talking about the death of his wife with Lori's friend, Melanie Gibb, who will be one of the star witnesses in the case.
All these conspiracy theories just make me sick to my stomach. Just absolutely sick. I know I've been told for years that Tammy would pass away at a young age. And I had no idea that Lori would even be a part of my life. I just knew that my life had two segments. And that I know Tammy's on a special mission, and she's with my kids. She's visited them. There's so much, Melanie, that you just have to have faith, and this is not some sort of master plan. There's no way Lori and I could ever come up with this.
You know, he's going to need a third segment to that life if he gets a death penalty, Nima.
Yeah, you will. And I respectfully have to disagree with Eklund. This case is going to get international attention regardless of whether there's a death penalty phase, a capital phase here. Everyone has been looking for these kids for 2 years now. While this couple was vacationing in Hawaii, they were not following court orders to disclose the whereabouts of their children. The nation has been on edge while law enforcement has been looking for JJ and Tylee, and ultimately they found their remains. So regardless of what the penalty is, everyone is going to be watching this evil man, and he's going to have his stage regardless.
Kirk, I want to ask you about that stage, because you've been on that stage when the world's watching everything that you do, everything that you say. What advice would you have for the folks involved in this case as we get ready for this trial, which is just around the corner coming up this fall?
Well, if I'm advising his defense counsel, I'm trying to find any way you can to plead him out, to try to avoid this trial, to avoid this spectacle. But we know that's not going to happen, right? We know that there are certain defendants that come with a level of hubris that just cannot be overcome. And I'm going to agree with Eklund in the sense that, you know, I wouldn't be surprised on some degree if Chad wanted the death penalty, so he got that more attention. So he did become a martyr. So he did die for the cause. So he was seen as true to it, because that seems to be his mission, and he was willing to kill for it, and he might be willing to die for it.
Wow. All right. Fasten your seatbelts, folks. Coming up this fall.